One is the role of philanthropy in a growingly unequal world. And number two, India and its place in the Comity of Nations, both qua the Global South and the exemplary leadership of the current dispensation in India. This evening, you will hear Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, address this. I know Karthikeya is a shy man, but I must say that what he has achieved through NXT and what he is achieving both through the ITV Foundation and all the other work that they're doing, including on cancer screening, to my mind, tells you where India's heart is. Nations are made with a blend of compassion, energy, and empathy. Nations are not about GDP. They're about the gross domestic compassion. So here's, we'll just start and chip in whenever you wish. From your perch in the House of Lords, which is, I've been told, increasingly irrelevant, but we won't go there now. From the House of Lords, where you sit with hereditary peers and non-hereditary peers and people who've had scandals and no scandals, how do you see India?
Well, it's great to be in India, in Bharat, and to be in Delhi, back in Delhi. I've had the pleasure of coming to Delhi, Sunil, many times, and it's always wonderful to be here and to be enjoying this excellent conference, NXT, put together by Karthikeya and the whole team. So I want to thank them for putting together this event and bringing so many influential and interesting voices from around the world to hear the heart of Delhi.
Just 1 minute. Could we have some silence? I know it's difficult for some of you to keep quiet, but if you were that erudite, you'd be on stage. So would you just keep quiet so that we can hear our guest? Thank you so much. See what a wonderful audience you can be if you choose to. Sorry.
That's kind of you. I'm a passionate believer in the relationship between the UK and India. You asked how the UK and India is viewed from the UK Parliament. Well, we just had a fantastic FTA, free trade agreement, signed in July of last year that's added £4.8 billion to the UK economy. That is the biggest and most economically significant free trade agreement since the UK left the EU. So it's a huge moment of opportunity for the relationship between the UK and India at every level, whether it's the economic level, the trade level, but most important of all is the relationship between the two peoples, because the interplay between the Indian diaspora in the UK and now I hope more Indian business people doing more trade in the UK after that FTA is going to be at the core of our joint development, I think.
So you do know that an Indian group, the Tatas, are the largest employers in Great Britain?
Yes.
By far. What we are seeing, Ross, here in India is a shift from what one of your legendary prime ministers called us a nation of shopkeepers, and we've transformed to become a nation of entrepreneurs. India today, and I must say this for your benefit and for the benefit of those who don't know, we are not just the world's fastest growing economy. We're the world's most aspirational society. Aspiration is different from ambition, because ambition can have an element of hubris and arrogance, but aspiration is an unwavering commitment to seeing the world move ahead. And I believe, Ross, where I come from, I was born and raised in Calcutta, I have generally come to the conclusion that we are leaving behind a better world for our children, and we are leaving behind a better future. Never have I seen the Indian diaspora, or for that matter, an Indian, being so proud of being Indian, whether he is of Indian origin or Indian nationality. And this is pride without the arrogance and without the sense of entitlement. I'm seeing a revival of who we really are. We're going back to an uncolored, unpolluted sense of history that was bestowed on us in 1947 by some people who may have been close to you. I'm just joking. But what I'm seeing today as an individual is that India is now moving towards establishing an order which is uniquely its own. We're not part of any clique, we're not part of any bloc, and we're certainly not wedded to any ideology that does not take care of our own. For the first time, I can say this: India is working for Indians. Indians are working for India, and India is working for a more humane world. And I think that's what matters. And you have an intellectual giant in the form of Keir Starmer. What do you think he's doing?
Well, I think it was very good that he made his first official visit to India in October of last year. So I think it was right that he came. And following that visit, I know that there were a significant number of announcements in job creation and joint trade, again, between the UK and India. I want to pick up on that point about the remarkable acceleration and the remarkable growth that India is experiencing, because I think I'm right in saying that in just a decade, India has gone from being the 11th largest economy in the world to the 3rd, and it's now forecasted that within the next 3 years, that trend will continue to grow even more aggressively than before. And I'm very interested in the point that you made about the humane philosophy, if there is one, that stands behind this growth, because Prime Minister Modi has his one world concept. It is, as you say, a non-aligned vision, but there is a philosophy there behind that growth. So one of the things that I'm here to do is to learn more about not just what drives that mission economically, but the ideas behind it, even though, as you say, it's not ideological.
So you should see what's happening in India, both between individuals and the corporate world. We are seeing a greater impetus towards giving back to society. Daan was talked about in India, which basically means giving back, 3,800 years ago. It's ironic that we needed a Warren Buffett and people like him, great people, to talk about charity or talk about giving back. I also believe, Ross, that, and I will say this not as just because I'm an Indian, but I will say more and more Indians are working towards a greater inclusive India. Any society is as strong as its weakest link, and never before has this been recognized as it is being today. And to me, that's a great sign. Countries are born not out of vision, but out of a blend of vision and execution. So the things that we are doing, and I talked to you about what Karthikeya and his colleagues have done and his family have done, I believe that we need greater examples of giving back. We need greater examples of goodness. You know, there was a Hindu tradition, Neki kar kuein mein dal, which means if you do good, don't talk about it, throw it into the well. Which to my mind was an incorrect notion of goodness. Goodness also needs inspiration, just like evil has from America's current leadership. So, when you and I talk about the new global order, we've got to understand that countries will be subsumed to national identity, but they must succumb to global humanism. What do you think of that?
I don't share necessarily the view or the characterization of the US administration there, but what I would say is there has to be an increasing degree of cooperation between nations, for sure. And India is absolutely at the heart of that. And as the former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison was just saying in the previous session, India is going to be the preeminent determining factor in the course of events, not just in the Indo-Pacific, but increasingly in the entire region and beyond. So it's very important that the Western partners, whether it's the UK, the US, Australia, or others, have the most possible constructive relationship with India. And I'm pleased to say that the UK has a 10-year defense industrial roadmap now, a partnership with India. The UK is developing a very sophisticated partnership with India on AI in particular, as one of those challenges that might be coming forward to that global sense of the humane. So it's a world, I think, where partnership can make a huge difference. And I think it's events like this which provide the forum, increasingly so in India, where those collaborations can hopefully be forged.
So since I touched upon America today, there is a recalibration and redrawing of global lines like never before. I mean, you don't have to, bury Caesar to praise him. I'm not asking you to do that. But there is a reality. The global order is changing. Some of the identity politics that are being played out in the world's most powerful country are having their repercussions across the world. We are going to war. We are doing whatever we have to do for whatever reasons. Hatred has never been a great ingredient for peace. And it certainly has never been a great ingredient for progress. Since you sit in Parliament in the UK, where do you think, or how do you feel that your people, not your government, how do your people feel about the redrawing of these red lines across the world?
I think I completely agree that the world is going into a time of very dynamic change in the way that things work. I think it's mostly actually driven by technology rather than geopolitics, because if you look at, you mentioned the current outbreaking war in Iran, we're now in a situation where those belligerents, rightly or wrongly, but both sides are using drones, which are very cheap to make compared to old forms of munitions technology, and they're having devastating effects. So the economics of war is changing based on technology. We have AI coming down the track at an increasing speed, and that's going to change the way that every society works. I had the pleasure to be speaking earlier here at NXT to a very eminent professor in robotics. The revolutions that are underway in robotics, advanced manufacturing, modeling, and other areas of engineering science are really pushing the boundary, likewise in biotech. And these changes are going to completely reform the meaning of work, I think, in today's world, and the way in which the definition of economic growth actually begins to shift from that traditional GDP measure that you mentioned earlier to new forms of economic growth, whether it's an increase in the specificity and application of information or so on. So these changes are coming. What do I think people in the UK think of it? I think broadly, the number one thing that matters to most of them is sharing in the prosperity that some of those advantages will create. And the UK has, unfortunately, a problem at the moment with its rate of GDP growth. It's very slow, and its productivity is also pretty depressed, and it has been for quite some time. So my view is that the UK economy is in need of quite major reform. But if that reform doesn't come from the political leadership, then it's almost as if it's going to happen anyway, because technology and the ways of work are changing. But I think the thing that matters to most British people, if I can dare to speak on their behalf, is the thing that matters to most people everywhere around the world, which is the health and prosperity of their family, the opportunity to create a better life for the next generation, having peace and stability in their society. Those are shared aims. And whatever's happening at the geopolitical layer, I think those human ambitions are very, very common to every society around the world.
So as we wind down, because I'm mindful of the time, in a very brief manner, what would your message, both as a Britisher and as a British lawmaker, would be to this microcosm of India that you see, including three eminent former prime ministers, lawmakers, young, bright minds, far brighter than most of us? What would your message be from Britain to India?
I'm afraid the message is that the British are back, and we're keen to do business, we're keen to do trade, we're keen to create and share prosperity around the world. And if you have made the mistake of thinking that the UK because of various political developments or geopolitical developments, is somehow not keen to be your preeminent partner, economically, strategically, geopolitically, then you're completely wrong. And the UK is going to be doing more than ever in my generation. There's a big generational shift going on in leadership. I'm afraid the older politicians are on the way out. There's a new set coming in, and India is one of the key partners for that joint growth and prosperity. So it's a pleasure to be here in India, and anybody who would like to do business in the UK, please come and talk to me and we'll bring it forward.
So I'm a marketing person. Let me crispen it for you in a headline. Be Indian and please buy British. But I want to end with, who are we today? The British left us in 1947. Up until almost the middle 2000s, we were a nation grappling with three things. We were grappling with identity as to who we are. We were grappling with a roadmap of where we want to be. And we were concerned about who would deliver that. I do not like any political party, none whatsoever. But I can tell you one thing, Ross. Leadership is what leadership does. I personally, I'm going to be 63 in May. I have nothing to lose. And I can tell you that we are blessed that we have a decisive prime minister. We are blessed that we have a person who is willing to take the risks and do what needs to be done at the altar of unpopularity, because your former Prime Minister Churchill said, the only person you've got to be popular with is your spouse, and Modi doesn't even have a spouse. So he has to do what is right for India. Indians have to do what is right for every Indian and for the world. Because unlike most countries, we are not just the Republic of India. We are a civilizational legacy. And it's time the world understood our contours, understood our contribution, and most importantly, understood our potential. I hope you have a splendid stay in India. A lot has changed, and yet our cultural values and our value architecture remains unchanged. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you very much for that very interesting session, both of you gentlemen. And now we move forward. Of course, we heard a bit of business talk in that session as well towards the end. And we're now turning to our next segment, which is in fact on Next in Entrepreneurship. And for this, we have for a special address on data-driven decision-making, the Dean of the Melbourne Business School, Professor Jenny George. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Professor George, let's have you on stage, please.
Thank you. What a pleasure it is to be here. There is an irony in the title of my talk, Data-Driven Decision-Making, and I wonder what you think I'm going to talk about. I've spent most of my career in management education, and for years, honestly, embarrassingly long, a significant part of my job has been making the case for data-driven decision-making.